Let's start off here right now, this evening, just looking at where we are politically. Before we go any further, where are we politically? What's going to happen here, probably within the next 4 or 5 weeks, as we look at the upcoming election? These are very, very troubling times for us. These are not bad times for us, but they are troubling times for us. And I do think that what's being held in the balance here right now is democracy, as to whether or not this country, not only this country, the world, in terms of its direction, is going to hold on to democracy as we move forward into the future. It's not certain that we will, but we do believe that the majority of the people on the globe are people who are looking for a democratic process. They're not looking for imperialism. They're not looking for fascism. They're looking for a democratic process. And we, as we study Revelation, all of the prophets that came, that were sent to mankind by the Creator of heavens and earth, all of them came with a democratic message. All of them came with democracy. All of them came with the intent of freeing people's souls, people having freedom from tyranny, people having freedom from slavery. This was the message that prophets and messengers brought to mankind. So if we go back and we study the scripture, that's what we'll find. You're going to find a democratic message. You'll find that in Christ Jesus, God's mercy on him, and Muhammad, God's mercy on him, Moses, God's mercy on him, Abraham, God's mercy on him. What you find there is a democratic message and a democratic process. And if you examine their lives, for those of them that we do have information on, you'll see that they brought a democratic message. Let's talk today here. Let me say this before we go forward. Because democracy has to win here in America. It has to win 2022. If it doesn't win 2022, and I'm saying this from the standpoint of both houses, winning both houses again, the House and the Senate, then America's going to find itself in trouble, deep trouble, divided, solely divided against itself. And that's what you'll have. You'll have divided government. So the only way I can see at this particular point, my humble opinion, going forward, is that Democrats do have to hold on to the Senate and the House in order for the world to keep going in the direction that it's going in, which I believe is towards peace, it's towards harmony, it's towards growth, it's towards development, it's towards being kinder and friendlier with our fellow citizens throughout the globe, making room for everybody. This is shared freedom space that we're in. This is shared, as Imam W.D. Muhammad said it, God's mercy be on him, shared freedom space. So all of us have a right to the space. All of us have a right. All of us have a right to the space. All of us have a right to freedom. All of us have a right to justice and equality and fairness and happiness and the pursuit of these things. That's in this Declaration of Independence for this United States of America, and the Constitution of these United States holds these things out for us, for citizens. This idea called America, or the United States of America, this idea, and that's what it was from the very, very beginning. It was an idea for the rest of the world to look at. It was an idea that was designed to invite people from anywhere in the world. Didn't matter what their nationality was, what their religion was, what their gender was. Those things mattered not at all. as they're constructing and putting together this document for liberation, freedom, independence in 1776. It started long before that. So we're not going to go into that tonight, but I am saying this to us as I shift from here, that we should be very, very mindful of where we are right now in the history of the world. In the history of the world. And those of you probably along my age, you're bridging 8 decades. You got a lot less in front of you than, what's behind you. So we know that probably 20 years from now, most of us will be gone. Those of us who are at 75, 80, at this particular, most of us will be gone. But these younger generations, these younger people coming behind us, they still have to live. They still want their freedom. They still deserve their freedom. And they should not have to live in any type of imperialistic or fascist society. No, because the world has shown, the world has already demonstrated that we can have a democratic process in most of these nations that will work, that will act as a check and balance on the life of the public. And you do need systems. You do need, as they say, a conservative and a liberal, or whatever you want to call it, opposing views, so that you just don't have a dictatorship. And that's what America seeks to avoid. So I appeal to you as we move on into these last few days before the elections. Think about it. Go vote. Go vote for your choice. Vote for who you think is going to be the best body to actually represent your views and your ideas, your concepts going forward. And if you stay home, if you don't go out and vote, then don't complain. Don't complain at all. When it doesn't fall the way that you would expect for it to fall, then don't complain if you don't go to the polls. And you can vote for whoever you want to. But at the very least you should do is go to the polls and vote. Exercise your right. Okay, I want to talk to you tonight about a very, very common disorder. I've addressed this in the past, but it is so commonplace today. I had to come back to this, and I'm sure as a result of me looking at this, I will probably share some new and additional concepts about this, which is so critical. And we're talking about reversing your fatty liver, reversing the fatty liver. And believe me, this has been done already by many people. They've reduced fatigue, they've relieved joint pain, and lost that extra weight, and they got it off for good, simply because they went to work on this particular organ that I'm going to talk to you about here tonight, your liver. And you have, this is true. If you have a fatty liver, or you're really going to be pretty happy about what I'm getting ready to share with you. New diet, new possibilities for you. And believe me, we've helped a lot of people down through time with this particular problem. So if you start cleaning up your liver, you're going to start dissolving liver fat. This will lessen your fatigue. This will start relieving muscle pain. And actually, you'll start to lose weight, but it won't come back like it happens with most people. And most people don't know why they can't get it off and keep it off. Well, the real secret behind the whole thing is your liver. Until you clean up the liver, you're not going to burn fat as the body should burn it, and you won't lose weight and keep that weight off. So, let's go on. There's nearly 2 billion people worldwide that have a condition known as fatty liver disease. And the scary part is that most of them don't even know that they have it. They don't even know that they have it. In many cases, unless the doctor really looks for it, you won't know that you have it. Unless you understand some of the signs and the symptoms of it, you won't know that you have it. Most of us are walking around. Look what I just told you, 2 billion people. There's 7 billion people on the globe. So that's what, 30, we can say almost 30% of the global public is suffering from a fatty liver. This is serious. A fatty liver, look, literally takes years off your life. Just fatty liver. Even worse, it damages the quality of your life by making you overweight and bloated, premature aging of the skin and the body, and forcing you to live with unnecessary pain and fatigue. It's coming from your liver. You say, oh, how do you know it's coming from the liver? How do you know it's not? You're having the pain and the fatigue. Where's your primary care doctor telling you that it's coming from? So, well, quite naturally, you can accept what I'm giving to you or you can leave it. It's up to you. But the bottom line is, it's in your best interest to pay close attention to what I'm sharing with you, because this could help you out quite a bit. If you are suffering from any of these symptoms that I'm going to talk to you about as we go on. This has become, this has become the #1 health condition on the planet. And it's getting worse every day, affecting nearly 1/3 of all adults. I said 1 out of 3 is being affected here, adults. But there's something that the 1 out of 3 can do about it. You're not left in a situation where you just can't do anything. And believe me, if you ignore your liver, things will get worse. If you ignore liver problems, you risk making your condition worse than it is right now and increasing your chance of getting something even more unwelcome down the road, like cirrhosis, diabetes, heart attacks, strokes, and even liver cancer. All is from the liver. I said it. Cirrhosis, diabetes, heart attacks, strokes, liver cancer. So, I'm not trying to frighten you. I'm not trying to scare you. But this is a serious problem. And you really want to take care of your liver if you have the right understanding, especially if you're overweight or have any kind of physical pain, anything like that. Liver issues are not something you want to brush aside. Say, oh, I'll deal with it later. Is that right? And believe me, they're not going to go away on their own. These problems are not going away on their own. And believe me, you don't want to have to deal with these if you don't. So I'm going to show you what you got to do, tell you what you got to do. But before we get there, I got to share some other stuff. So you got to take some action. Because quite honestly, you may be living really on borrowed time. Many people just don't know. Look, people are suffering from pain. People are overweight, poor digestion, poor elimination, poor excretion, secretion, circulation. All of these things are going on with people. Literally suffering at an enormous rate. And basically don't know why, and it doesn't matter. You can go to the doctor's office. They'll give you a clean bill of health until something becomes active and aggressive in your body. They do it every day. So you don't want to push this off. You don't want to take this and push this off and say, I'll deal with it later. I'll get back to it later, as if you got time to get back to it later. No, today is the day for you to deal with this. They ain't going nowhere on their own. Fatty liver is the fastest growing medical condition in the world right now, even bigger than diabetes. And we know how staggering diabetes is. It is huge. It affects nearly 1/3 of all men and women and can be found wherever there is an abundance of junk food, stress, a sedentary lifestyle, and people living in a toxic environment. It's a fact. What are we doing here? So this is more than a notion, you all, what I'm trying to bring to your attention here. For all of us to be living in an environment like what we're living in. It's really scary, really, because the liver is considered by many to be one of the most important organs in your entire body. In fact, we know it is. It separates and eliminates toxins like alcohol, pollution, preservatives, and chemicals from your body, acting like a giant filter, keeping the inner workings of your body clean and pure. This is your liver. It is a filter. It filters waste out of the bloodstream, just like your filter in your car is filtering intoxicants. But you already know, I said intoxicants, not intoxicants, but it's pollutants. But as you burn your fuel, as you burn your oil in the car, then it starts losing what they call viscosity. And so it's not as strong as it was when you first put it in. So if you keep driving without changing that oil, eventually that other oil will get so hot that it will literally catch fire and set your whole engine on fire. Well, your liver has to be, so what is that telling you? Before I move, what's that telling you? You have to clean up the filter in your car. Periodically, you got to go change that oil and the filter. Well, in this particular case, you can't change the filter. You can't change the liver, but you can keep it clean. And the cleaner you keep it, then the better it's going to serve you. So you should be wanting to know right now, well, what do I need to do to clean up the liver? I'm going to tell you that as we go on, as we keep going. Okay, so this is the fastest growing. This is what statistics are saying. That fatty liver is the fastest growing medical condition in the world right now. Think about that. What you may not realize, though, is everything else your liver does and how critical it is to your well-being, health, and even your looks. See, we overlook this. All of these things that I just showed you and told you could happen. Cirrhosis, diabetes, heart attack, stroke, and even liver cancer. But we can come down. It separates and eliminates toxins like alcohol, pollution, preservatives, and chemicals from your blood. That's what your liver is doing. Acting like a giant filter, keeping the inner workings of your body clean and pure. So if you don't keep it clean, it's not going to keep the inner workings of your body clean and pure. Let's think about this. You may not realize, though, well, what you may not realize is everything else that your liver does. And we don't, because most of us don't. Responsible for our eyes, responsible for our skin. The liver is responsible for about 400 or 500 different functions. As we go on, and we'll see. Around 80% of all fatty liver cases can be improved. I said around 80% can be improved when you know what to do. So follow the right program, and you may be able to naturally restore liver function and reduce your symptoms like I've done and many other people have done over the years. And it's not until we come into this knowledge and we start to realize just how important the liver is that we start working on it to clean it, detox it, give it what it needs in order for it to keep its balance. Once we start coming into that knowledge, then we become more focused on our liver and the attention that we should be giving to it. So let me ask you some questions. Do you have any of these symptoms? Statistics say if you live in the U.S. or Canada, there's a 1 in 3 chance you have fatty liver. Let me say that again. These are what the statistics are telling us. If you live in the U.S. or Canada, there is a 1 in 3 chance you have fatty liver. And if you were never formally, even if you were never formally diagnosed with it, this is what the statistics are saying. You wondering why you can't get rid of that mid-ridge bulge? You wondering why you can't get rid of that fat around your waist? You wondering why you can't lose the weight and keep it off? I'm talking to intelligent people here now. I'm not talking to just the ignorant masses of the people. Some of you are bright and intelligent. Very bright and intelligent. Some of you got PhDs, doctor's degrees, master's degrees. You got it all. You got all of that. But you don't have your health. You don't have your health. You've gotten older. You've gotten wiser in certain ways, in certain areas, but you don't have your health. Why? Because the knowledge that you studied down through time wasn't the knowledge that you necessarily needed today in order to deal with the matters of health that you're confronted with today. So I said 1 out of 3 in the U.S. right now or Canada. So if it's 3 of y'all sitting there in the house listening to me, 1 of y'all got it. And if I measure you to the whole neighborhood or the street, probably all 3 of you got it. If I opened it up. But just 1 out of 3. 1 of you there have it based on what these statistics are saying. And here's the deal. 80%, there's an 80% chance of you getting rid of it, getting over it. For what? The pain to go away. These disorders to go away. Your numbers to come in line like they should be. All these are possibilities. All right, so let me ask you some questions. If you've experienced any of these risk factors, your liver is literally crying for help. Let me say that again. If you experience any of these risk factors, your liver is literally crying for help. You have extra weight on your belly, thighs, or your hips. If you have that, your liver is crying for help. If you have high cholesterol, your liver is crying for help. If you feel tired and sluggish, it's your liver crying for help. You have mental fog and trouble focusing your attention. All this is this is your liver. All of this. I'm not finished. I still got distance to go. Mental fog and trouble focusing your attention. Huge. For so many people. Basically, all of us that have this problem that's got a fatty liver. Your vision is blurry or sensitive to light. Your back or right side are constantly sore. You have diarrhea or irregular bowel movements coming from the liver. You were diagnosed with syndrome X or heart disease. You have dark or brown urine. You have insulin resistance or diabetes. You have trouble consuming alcohol. For whatever that means, I guess a little bit just makes you, I don't know what it means. You have trouble consuming it. It's best for you to stay away from it. Your eyes or skin seem to have a yellowish tint. Jaundice. So if you answered yes to any of the above, and you are over the age of 45, there is a higher than average chance you have fatty liver, which means this page was specifically written for you. Now the question is, what are you going to do about it? You say, well, I don't have it. Well, do you have any of those symptoms that I just shared with you? Doctor never told me that I had it. Do you have any of these symptoms? You may never have been diagnosed. I just shared that with you. You may not have been diagnosed with it. Doesn't mean you don't have it. What does your liver do? It metabolizes fat, carbohydrates, and proteins and keeps your weight stable. This is your liver. Let me say that again. It metabolizes fat, breaks fat down, utilizes fat, and carbohydrates. When I say fats here, I'm really talking about natural fat. I'm talking about your essential fats. Carbohydrates, I'm talking about complex carbohydrates, not simple carbohydrates. It will metabolize the simple carbohydrates, but it's going to cause problems for you with all of the sugar or the glucose. And it also metabolizes proteins and keeps your weight stable. Now look at these two, fats and proteins. These are two of the main groups that you need in order to burn fat. In order to burn fat and protein. The membrane of every cell is made up of fat and protein. The membrane of every cell, whether it's the membrane of the nucleus or the membrane of the cytoplasm, they're made up of protein and fat. So you have to have protein and fat every day in order for your body to function properly and in order for your liver to function properly. I'm talking about essential fat, omega-6, omega-9, those essential fatty acids, omega-3, borage oil, olive oil, coconut oil, those oils. You need to be oiled every day. We all need to be oiled. Your car needs to be oiled too, don't it? The liver regulates hormones that affect what? Whether you're happy, whether you got energy, your emotional stability. This is the liver. It keeps your skin and eyes healthy and vibrant and young when it's clean. It stabilizes your blood sugar and cholesterol levels. Your high-density lipid proteins, or your HDL, is manufactured by your liver. Cholesterol is produced by the liver. All your hormones come from cholesterol. So if you don't get the liver right, your hormonal system is not going to work right. What do you mean? I'm talking about pituitary gland, pineal gland, thyroid gland, parathyroid gland, adrenals, sex glands, pancreas, all of that. The liver is responsible for it. It produces bile, and bilirubin, aiding your digestion and elimination. It secretes bile to the gallbladder. Gallbladder holds the bile. Then when fat comes into the system, the gallbladder releases the bile. The bile emulsifies the fat, and then digestion takes place. That's just a short list of things that the liver does. Your liver performs over 400 different functions, which it normally does great. But here's the kicker. When the fat content gets above 5%, it turns into fatty liver disease. At that point, your body starts to go haywire, and you experience such a long list of seemingly unrelated ailments. It's hard to imagine they're all being caused by the same thing. What? A fatty liver. When the fat content of your liver gets over 5%, and many people are up to 10% and the 15% range, it stops working correctly. And you end up with a ton of health issues you can no longer ignore. This is just coming from your liver. Just getting people to understand this. For years, I've taught many of my students and clients that I have the importance of organ cleansing. And at certain times of the year, it's time for you to clean up certain organs. Now we're going into the fall. It is time for you now to clean up your respiratory tract, your lungs. What you're going to start hearing now is get vaccines. This is cold and flu season. Well, why don't everybody get the cold? Why don't everybody get the flu? If it's the season, and the season is what makes the difference. Now, the season just acts as a trigger to release waste, mucus, and catarrh. That's what the season acts as. When the weather changes, then the body responds to the weather. So that's what happens in the fall. When the winter comes, now it's time to clean up the kidneys. You clean up the kidneys in the winter. Then in the springtime, you clean up the liver. You detox the liver. And then in the summer, it's circulation in the heart. The heart needs to be clean. So I gave you 4 seasons. Summertime, you're going to clean up the heart and the circulation. The fall, you're going to clean up the respiratory tract, bronchioles, lungs, sinuses. Wintertime, you're going to clean up your kidneys on both sides of the body. They are the balance of the body. They are the strength of the body. And then when you get into the spring, you're going to clean up the liver, detox the liver. Now, if you will do this annually, follow what I'm sharing with you annually, you'll stay here for a pretty long time without a whole lot of problems. You might have some mechanical stuff. We all have mechanical stuff. Back problems and some female problems and some male problems. Those you're going to have. None of us will escape those. Most of us won't escape those. Let's say it from that standpoint. But these other disorders, if you start doing just organ cleansing, annual organ cleansing, it's going to make a tremendous difference in your life. Tremendous difference in your life. Let's go on. So body stops working, starts going haywire. When you get 10 to 15% range, it just stops working correctly. This is the liver. and you end up with a ton of health issues you can no longer ignore. Vision problems, baggy eyes, fatigue, inflammation, insomnia, belly fat, joint pain, abdominal cramps, and brittle hair. That's just to name some. All this is coming from a fatty liver. And in many cases, what? We don't attribute these things. Look at what I just told you. I just told you vision problems, baggy eyes, fatigue, inflammation, insomnia. That's not being able to sleep. Belly fat, we all know what that is. Joint pain, abdominal cramps, and brittle hair, just to name a few. All are symptoms of an unhealthy liver that's literally clogged up with fat. There are multiple reasons why so many people are struggling with fatty liver, but the biggest by far has to do with our modern day overprocessed, preservative-filled diet. Food these days is cheap and convenient. But like your parents probably taught you, you get what you pay for. That's a fact. You're buying fractionated foods, in some cases, foods that won't even spoil. This is how you're supposed to eat. You're supposed to eat foods that will spoil, but eat them before they do. That's how you're supposed to eat. We're not supposed to be eating all these foods that won't even spoil. I mean, a roach won't climb up on them to eat it. Mice won't even eat it. Rats won't even eat it. Some of these foods, I'm telling you, some of these foods that people are eating, overprocessed. But most of this is where it's coming from. What? Poor diet. Just poor diet, particularly when you start talking about simple carbohydrates, bread, pizza, pasta, cakes, cookies, rolls, donuts, crackers, sugar. I mean, we can just go on with these simple carbohydrates. French fries, potato chips, corn chips, candy bars. That's where it's coming from. So you might save some money today by buying those cheap things, but the cost down the line is going to be a poisoned liver. That's what it will be. If you don't have digestion working for you and elimination working for you, it's a matter of time. How could we have that many people, at least 2 billion people on this globe, 1/3 of the adult population, suffering from a fatty liver? Unless what causes the fatty liver is wholesale everywhere. And that's the diet. That's the cheap foods, fast foods. McDougal's, they don't say that they got the best diet. They don't say they got the best food. All they say is I can get you in and out in 30 minutes. With what? Some bread, some meat, some potatoes, and some milk. And sugars and the rest of it, the sodas or whatever. That's what they're saying. They don't say we got the best meal. They just said I can get you in lunchtime and out. That's how it started. Now we know where it's at. It's breakfast, lunch, dinner. It's 24/7. So you can save some money, but you'll poison your liver. Overload it with what? Fat, sugar, alcohol, and processed junk. Not to mention additives and preservatives and pesticides and herbicides and chemical waste. All of that storing up in the liver today. Because why? Because it's there. It's in the food. You're eating it. So where do you think the hormones are going? Where do you think the steroids are going that you're eating, that they're firing into the animals? Where do you think the preservatives are going? And the other things that that they put on the food and crops to preserve them, but the masses eat them. The people eat them. So those things that you're consuming from these animals and from these plants, they're carrying those factors that will interrupt the performance of metabolism throughout your entire system, let alone the liver and the kidneys, the gallbladder, the spleen, the heart, the brain. All of these have to function. And they function better in a clean environment. They function better when your liver is clean. They function better when your kidneys are clean. They function better when the system is clean and detoxed. Place to go first is the liver. Okay, let's look at some things. When the liver gets poisoned, two very, very bad things happen. First, your body starts storing fat. You didn't hear what I said. You did not hear what I said. Number one, let me go back again. Pay attention to this. When the liver becomes poisoned, two very bad things happen. One, your body starts storing fat. If you've been wondering why you are gaining weight all of a sudden, a likely culprit is a fatty liver, which throws your blood sugar out of whack and puts you at risk for inflammation, insulin resistance, and diabetes. First thing, what? Your body starts storing fat. Why? Because the liver has to burn the fat. But the liver is not burning fat while your fat cells are loaded with fat and loaded with sugar or glucose. Well, what does the liver do? Let's look at it. Everything that comes into the body goes to the liver. Everything. Digestion starts in your mouth. Starches are broken down in the mouth. Ptyalin is the digestive enzyme that's breaking it down in the mouth. Down it goes down the tube into the stomach. When it gets into the stomach, hydrochloric acid is being released. At that particular time, it moves from the stomach into the small intestines. When it moves into the small intestines, then digestive enzymes from your pancreas will start the process of digestion. But once it gets there, there's a tube. There's a portal vein that runs from the small intestines to the liver. I said the portal vein. It runs from the small intestines to the liver. So everything that comes into the body goes to the liver. Everything. Nothing comes into your body that does not go to your liver. So the liver, when these things come in, the liver has to process it because the liver is the project manager. It manages all the projects. So you're eating simple carbohydrates, bread, pasta, cakes, pies, cookies, rolls, donuts, soda crack, high in glucose. So when this comes to the liver has to say, okay, what am I going to do with this? Because you need the glucose now for energy. So the liver says, some of it I'm going to use, and some of this I'm going to store as glycogen that we can use later, that the person will be able to use later. What are we going to do with the rest of it? So the cells have to have glucose. So the liver starts sending glucose to the cells. But the process doesn't stop. The person keeps eating heavy with these simple carbohydrates. So more glucose, more glucose, more glucose, more glucose is coming in to the system. So after a while, the cells can't take anymore. In fact, what happens every time this glucose comes in, cakes, pies, cookies, rolls, donuts, bread, and so on and so forth, the body starts producing insulin. It produces insulin because insulin, the pancreas is going to produce it because insulin becomes necessary in order to escort glucose. To escort glucose into the cell. So, but what happens is we keep eating so much of these simple carbohydrates that the pancreas, it gets tired of the insulin knocking on the door. The insulin keeps knocking on the door. Let me in. Into the cell, into the cell, into the cell. After a while, the cell says, look, this is just too much for me. So the cell becomes insulin resistant. Why? Because you're eating too much of the stuff. So the cell becomes insulin resistant. So now the cell is insulin resistant, but the sugar keeps coming in, the glucose keeps coming in. So now the liver has to say, okay, now what am I going to do? So then it takes the glucose and it stores it into the muscles as glycogen. That glycogen that was stored, now the glycogen is stored for energy use later on into the muscles. And the only place that this glycogen can be used is in the muscle. See, the glucose can be used by the liver anywhere. Or glycogen can be used in other places too, but in the fat cells, that's the only place that it can be used. Glycogen. This is the first thing when you go into the gym and you first start working out, the first thing that you start burning is glycogen in the muscles. That's what you start burning first. So then what happens though? So after a while, the muscles can't take anymore. Person just keep eating and keep eating and keep eating and keep eating and keep. Muscles can't take anymore. So then the liver says, okay, what we're going to do, we're going to store it in the fat cells. And it stores it in the fat cells. And once it stores it in the fat cells, then the liver stops burning the fat. As the fat builds up in the fat cells, the liver stops burning fat. Why are so many people overweight? Why you got 65% of the public overweight? Because of the fatty liver. Because the liver is not burning the fat. Not burning the fat where? Around your belly. It's not processing cholesterol properly. Liver is not doing it. Why? Because it's toxic. And once it becomes toxic, then it affects metabolism. And a part of that metabolism is burning fat in the fat cells. But the liver can't burn the fat in the fat cells when the fat cells are heavily inundated with fat. So how do you get a person to lose weight? Clean up the liver. Start detoxing the liver. When you start detoxing the liver, then the fat cells start to work again. They start burning fat again. But it's not going to happen as long as you got a fatty liver. So this is the point I'm trying to make. And what I'm saying to you, 1 out of 3 of you that I'm talking to tonight have a fatty liver. And it could be you. Number 2, I say it again, your body starts storing fat. Where? First of all, in the muscles, but it's going to also store it in the fat cells. Number 2, this is the second thing that happens when the liver becomes poisoned. Your blood becomes toxic. When toxic blood travels to your other organs, like the heart, the lung, the skin, and especially your brain, it poisons your entire body. Let me say this again. 2 things. When your liver becomes poisoned, these things happen. 1, your body starts storing fat. So if you're storing fat, you automatically know that you got a toxic liver. You should know right now you got a fatty liver, whether you want to accept it or not. You don't have to, but I'm telling you. The second thing, your blood becomes toxic. When toxic blood travels to your other organs, like the heart, like the lungs, like the skin, and especially your brain, it poisons your entire body. That explains the mental fog, the skin issues, high cholesterol, joint pain, clogged arteries, and frequent headaches you may be experiencing. These 2 things are going to happen, there's no question, once the liver becomes poisoned. So all of these people you see walking around with these big bellies, the place to look is the liver. I mean, that's the place. That's the place to go to crack the case. Let's go there first. Okay, so what do I have to do? I better start talking to you all what you need to do in cleaning up. Now, my suggestion, there are other ways for people to do this, but my suggestion is that you flush your liver and your gallbladder. You do need some help from certain herbal botanicals that would help you. Red clover would help you. Yellow dock would help you. Burdock would help you. All of these are good herbal botanicals for your liver. They work very, very well with your liver. So that could be used. And we have it in Liver Help. If you go to my website, you'll see it under Liver Help. You can use that. But in addition to that, is what I suggest is flushing the liver and the gallbladder with an olive oil and a grapefruit juice. If not a grapefruit juice, then a lemon juice is my suggestion. And this helps to remove a significant amount of toxic material out of the liver in a short period of time. But I suggest you do this twice a month. At least twice a month, flush the liver and the gallbladder. How do you do it? Well, 4 ounces of virgin grapefruit. 4 ounces of not virgin grapefruit, but 4 ounces of ruby red grapefruit or either lemon juice. You could use lime too. And then 4 ounces of olive oil, of virgin olive oil. You're going to mix these 2 together. Mix them together, drink it down, and go lay down. So what are you going to do? One ruby red, a large ruby red grapefruit will give you about 6 ounces of juice. You're going to use 4 ounces of that juice to mix with 4 ounces of olive oil. And then the last 2, you're going to chase, once you drink the mixture, then you'll chase it with those last 2 ounces of grapefruit juice. Then just go lay down for an hour. Now here's my suggestion. My suggestion is make sure that your bowel is open You know, if you can get you a mild herbal laxative, you could do that. You could take maybe a half a teaspoon or maybe a teaspoon of some Himalayan salt or sea salt. Many of those salts out there like that, sea salt or Himalayan salt or some of those other salts out there, natural salts, will cause your bowel to move. So about an hour before you get ready to take that concoction of the grapefruit juice and the olive oil, you want to take some warm tepid water and mix a little salt water in there and drink it down. Then we know once you flush the liver and the gallbladder, the bowel is going to move. So I suggest that you do this twice a month. Now, most of you have never done this before. Most of you never flushed your liver and your gallbladder. You never even heard about it. So, yeah, you could get in a hurry. You could flush every day, but you don't have to. But I already know if you're 50, 60, 70 years old, you've never flushed. You really should flush once for every year you've been alive. So that's 60 or 70 times. Well, I'm going to try to do it like that. We chunk it down and just do it twice a month. Just do it twice a month. If you just start off doing it twice, I'll guarantee you if you do it twice a month for just the first 6 months, you're going to feel so much better. You're going to lose weight. You're going to keep the weight off. The weight is just not going to come back. Not unless you just start doing, you stop giving attention to your liver again and continue on eating those simple carbohydrates and those other things that can cause complications for you. That's the only reason why it will really just come back. I'm telling you, what I'm talking to you about works. You just have to do it, but you can't know whether it will work unless you do it. I've got to stop here. I have so many other things that I could bring to your attention here, but the time is on us right now. We've got to close.